Hi, welcome to the Reverie of Ashanti. Today, I want to talk about two books that I read in the month of March. I think they're very related, not just because the main characters are both 40 something, but there's just something underlying in both that kind of made me uneasy to age a little bit. Um, and I kind of want to dive into that. I did reflect a little bit on my Substack, and you can find the link below. Um, there's a few things I meditated on about both books. Um, but this month I read All Fours by Miranda July and The Wedding People by Alison Espach. Espach? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Um, so I'm just going to start with The Wedding People. I think it was a very quick and easy read. So, like I said, the main character of The Wedding People is a 40 something year old woman. Her name is Phoebe. And the first thing she actually says to us is, I'm here for myself. That's the first thing that we learn about her, um, which is something that'll bring like any reader in. Because what do you mean, like, what's going on? Um, so you find out a little bit more about her. Like I said, she's in her 40s. I keep harping on 40. I keep harping on 40, but this is one of the big scary things for me because I'm 27, so I'm just thinking about how do we get here, right? Okay, so she is newly divorced. Well, not newly actually. I think it had been 2 years, but she's a divorcee. Um, and the crazy thing about the whole thing with her divorce was that her and her husband were both professors, right? And they were trying to get pregnant. She unfortunately was not able to get pregnant. And her husband ended up leaving her for one of their coworkers that had just had a baby. So he knew she was fertile. And we do hear a lot about men's midlife crisis. And I think her husband, what that whole, all of that was exactly that, like trying to find like I don't want to say a purpose, but like the fact that, he wasn't a father, he could be a father to this baby. You know, he was trying to find something and he left her alone to figure things out for herself. And I think that is why we're here. you know, I think that what I'm discovering is that women have a lot of the same like itching that these men so blatantly display. I don't know if that's actually true. I've never actually, well, I don't want to like be like men are always flashy during their midlife crisis, like they do this and this and that. But just like from what I've seen, maybe it's media. I don't think it's always media. I think it is there's a little bit of truth there, but I think that what I'm seeing is that women might have the same itchings, but we just like show them differently. And then unfortunately, Phoebe is showing it this way. But I think it's just interesting to reflect. I'm not sure if I said, but I am a 27-year-old and thinking that like right now I'm really trying to figure out my life, and it's just scary to think about like getting to 40 and still having that feeling that like I have now. I'm not but like that itching, like something needs to be done, something, you think by that time you have it figured out, or like you at least like you know have a good like flow going. Maybe she had a flow going, but it just wasn't the right flow for her. You know, Phoebe decides to live in a hotel in Rhode Island, and when she gets there, she soon finds out that the whole hotel is rented out for a wedding party. The wedding people, and she immediately meets the bride and is kind of sucked into their situation. But one of the good things about this, I think, with the whole situation, although her intentions were bad, her intention getting up and traveling to a hotel. Her intention was bad, but I think it just shows that if you are feeling stuck, you can just get up and go. Just a little bit of effort can just change your trajectory, 40 or not. And I think that was like the positive side. I brought my like very like emo take to my book club, and this woman who was older than me, I think she's probably like early 30s, I think that's what she said. She was like, I totally felt that way, but then I thought like the emo ness. She's like, I totally felt like that emo vibe from the beginning, but then I realized like, hey, like it just shows that at any age you can pick up and change your life. You don't have to stay anywhere you don't want to be. You don't have to deal with anything you don't want to deal with. You don't have to be with anyone that you shouldn't be with. So I liked that part of it. But yeah, I do recommend I do recommend reading it. So I don't want to like spoil it. Basically, that's the lead in, and it just had me reflect on aging and like what what do you feel like you have to live for if your romantic life is gone, your husband left you, you're just an adjunct professor, you're not really somebody that's chasing something in your career. She didn't seem to have many family or friends, so like what is there? And I think once you have one of those things in your life, then it just reinvigorates everything. And so I do recommend reading the book. I really enjoyed it. And the other book I read is All Fours by Miranda July. Um, the funny thing about this book was that the end you find out why it's named All Fours. She says, I think it's her friend in the book. The narrator's friend says that All Fours is like the stablest sexual position. So that gives you like an overview of how this book is. But I'm not going to talk about that. Um, So in this book, the narrator, she's unnamed, is some sort of creative. Where I don't even think she ever specifies, but she's just a creative overall, my kind of girl. And she decides to do a cross country trip from LA to New York for a writer's retreat, but she never gets to New York. She stops in this small town and decides to stay there for the duration. One thing that I did see a connection between these two books in was the narrator of All Fours talks about her dad talks about this thing called the death field. So while reading it, I kind of realized that I think it was like being like in a manic depressive state. So it's kind of like this thing that's kind of looming over her. She keeps asking about the death field, the death field. Like, is this the death field? Is this what the death field is? Because she's not feeling like herself, right? And I felt like that was the connection in with the two with the two protagonists. It's like there's something not right with me. I don't feel like myself. For Phoebe, she jumped and said, I don't want to live anymore. But for the character in All Fours, it's more of like a lingering feeling that's always there, like she's scared of. Um, like she's scared she won't escape it. And I think it's because the narrator's paternal grandmother and aunt both took their lives the same way. And so it's just kind of like looming there, um, which is terrible. So then when she makes this pit stop and ends up staying there the full week, 2 weeks. Sorry, it's been a little minute since I read it. It's there's just she knows that something's not right, but there's also like I feel like when you're going through something like that, it's hard to stop it. You just know it's happening, but you can't stop it, right? So, anyways, um, in this small town with where she stays at a motel, she meets this man. I think he's like 10 plus years her junior, and he's married. Um, and kind of like works a dead end job. Like it's like, but he's like breathtakingly beautiful from her account, and she kind of starts fixating on him. And this this group of books and the last group of books I read last month. I wrote a Substack on that too. Has really made me realize that like obsession, which I wouldn't call it an obsession, but just obsession overall, is only only created when you're missing something from your life. Like I don't, well, I was gonna say I don't think creative people that are actively being creative would have an obsession. Is that just what they call a muse? It might be what they call a muse. Okay, so creative people are obsessive people. I mean, I'm creative and I'm obsessive, but not at the same time. I've never had a muse, but it was just interesting because her even going on a writer's retreat, you have to think like there must be something missing creatively for her, so she's trying to search for it. So when she stops here and fixates on this man, it's like somewhere to put her energy. That creative energy turns into like a sexual energy, like a desire, um, and her whole time there and having this desire for him completely reawakens her. And for me, from my perspective, I feel like chaos ensues from that point. But I think this book is just really about like aging and like rediscovery and yeah, like rediscovery. Like what do you really want out of life is like taking a pause in this like midlife and being like, is this really what I want? Is it? And if not, you can change it, which is which I love. But yeah, like I said, like something in her life is not aligning with her. Like she has a husband, she has a child, she has like from my perspective, cool friends, like a lot of cool friends, a cool career, but something's missing. And that I think she's like 45 in the book. Something maybe that lay dormant her whole life. It just came out. So I guess this writing retreat, well, was supposed to be a writing retreat, just really made her come into herself. I don't know, but I also want you to read this too. So I don't want to share too much, but like it's a journey. We're on a journey. It is a lot. It's very honest. So that kind of had me kind of shocked me at first a little bit, but I do recommend reading it, and I think it's just interesting that 40 might be a little pause for some, but you're going to continue. And if you don't like your life, you can change it. That's what I learned. So, yeah. So, thank you for watching my book review slash reflection. I really appreciate it. And if you could, please check out my Substack. I also do a book review slash reflection, but it's a different reflection. In the future, I'll probably do no spoilers, so I can really get out my thoughts. But until then, I don't want to ruin books for anybody. I want you to read the book, you know. So please check that out. I'll have that linked as I've stated. Um, and yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed day.